Right, hello everyone. We're just going to let the figures clock up a little bit. Going live, John Wedger here with one of many podcasts of victims and survivors. And with Joe. I've known Joe for quite a while now. Joe was one of the first people to start following the campaign back in 2018, really, wasn't it, when it sort of really took off. So Joe started off following, but Joe's come forward as she is a victim and survivor of every element of abuse, including satanic ritual abuse. So just calling out, this could trigger, so we'll put out a trigger warning to anyone that there'll be some stuff that might be classed as unsavoury, but we're just speaking about the truth, and that's all we want. And the purpose of this is to get the truth out. So Joe, we'll just let it clock up a little bit. We're down in a beautiful part of the country, down in the West Country, absolutely lovely, and we've got a couple of little dogs jumping about. So there's some dogs sort of coming in and out. So we'll let the figures just move up to the 100 mark, and then we'll because this is an ad hoc interview. A lot of the stuff I do is so spontaneous, Joe. Do you know what I mean? It's so big bad Alan Merritt there. He's always there, Alan. He's always it comes in, but. And because of the time of day as well, people, you know, but this will be going onto YouTube, hopefully by the end of the day. Hello, Jono. Right, we'll start now because Joe's been very apprehensive, like a lot of people. It's we're going into the depths of their past, and we're going to be picking a scab on some old wounds, aren't we, Joe? So thank you so much, Joe.
I'm strong enough.
Thank you so much for coming on, Joe. It means a lot, and as we've showed with these podcasts, the purpose is, it's not for entertainment, it's for education. It's to put the story out there.
It's right for faith.
Yeah, okay, you do what you want in your house. You know. Right, Joe, let's start off with like your early years, where you're from and your family dynamics.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Johanna Longden. My dad was Iranian, somehow Persian.
You speak Farsi?
No, I wouldn't want to. No. I was born in Dulwich, London, and I was there till I was 3 years old. I've just remembered something actually. When I was a baby, I remember my dad and my mother wrestling me. My mother was trying to throw me up a high-rise building. My dad pulled her back in. That's the only thing I remember from two.
What did your father do for work?
He was he was in the Iranian army, and he was a pharmacist in India.
Right.
So he knew a lot about drugs, obviously. And he was an auction, bric-a-brac and things like that.
Okay. Right. So he come out, and your mother?
She was a air traffic controller in the RAF. And she worked for advertising companies and did a lot of making sweaters and on a knitting machine at home. Yeah.
And Joe has reported her abuse to the police. The police are. This is one of the things we say.
They were good. Yeah.
You know, always give the police a chance to do nothing.
Yeah, they were good. Yeah.
But I would say, coming from that profession, it is difficult.
Yeah.
Because the evidence has gone. It's only usually testimonial evidence.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they can't prosecute. But then there's so many factors that the CPS now put. Now they work how civil solicitors work. If they think they're not going to win, they don't bother.
Yeah.
So that's probably right. So if we go back then, that obviously from what you've just said about being tried to be chucked out a window, this wasn't a nice family background.
No. When I was about 3 years old, sorry to be honest, but my dad taught me to masturbate from a very early age, and he would name it, and it would be called. Oh, sorry, this is embarrassing.
Oh, don't say it.
Yeah. Anyway, he named it, and basically, I won't mention my sister a lot because she's estranged, and I don't want to include her in it really because she doesn't want to get involved. But basically, I was masturbating for years and years and years till I just literally would just drop on the floor from needing to feel loved. And basically that happened, and I couldn't stop. I was addicted to sex and porn and stuff like that. And my dad used to punish us by, my hands would be up in the air for long periods of time, and it would hurt.
Why would he do that?
Punishment, but I can't remember what the punishments were for. But sometimes him and my mum would say, "We're punishing you today in case you're naughty."
Just in case.
Just in case I'm naughty, yeah.
Well, there's probably a logic there somewhere, but I
Yeah,
don't know where.
no.
So you've made some copious amounts of notes here.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
So please
yeah,
refer to
yeah.
them. You know, so you've got. Let's just a little recap. Your father has made you masturbate from the age of 3.
About 3, yeah.
And then that become like an addiction.
Constant.
Right.
I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. I'm okay now, but I could not stop.
But we discussed, we were doing a lot of pre-chat, and you were saying even at school.
Yeah, school toilets, in the bushes, and he taught me how to suffocate myself sexually. So I would lie on a bed as a little child and like constantly suffocate myself till I was nearly dead. And sometimes the thought of dying would turn me on.
Oh.
But yeah, it would turn me on.
How would you suffocate yourself?
You just go like that and hold your breath until you're nearly dead. Like you just want to die, but it would turn you on.
You said sexually. What?
Sexually, it heightens you. A lot of people use it sexually anyway.
Right, okay.
It heightens sexual feelings, apparently.
Was there sexual abuse with your father?
A lot of sexual abuse, yeah, a lot. Yeah, he would get into bed with me and play with me down below. But the most hardest thing that I found difficult was he put his sperm on my vagina, and that, like, even now, sometimes I feel a bit of a shame.
Right.
I know I shouldn't, but a little bit of a shame-based thing there.
Well, the guilt and the shame isn't yours.
No, I know. It's just that the minute he put the sperm on my below, I felt this. It was a horrible feeling, and his body next to mine in bed, and he would get in bed with me a lot. And
from what age was this?
The masturbation bit was about 3. He then stopped and then started on me probably about 6 or 7 onwards.
Right.
It was really weird how he sort of stopped. It was just really, really weird.
But along with that, there was other forms of abuse.
Yeah. Basically, I was smashed against a cooker. I still get spine pain sometimes. My parents, I was sat near a cooker, and I was pushed so violently, and my back went against the cooker. And occasionally I get spinal pain, not often. But
who would do that to you?
I can't remember if it was my mum or dad, but it was one of them. And I just remember being in the kitchen.
So we've got stuff that your father's been doing. What was your mother doing when all this
my mother sort of didn't really do much. They fought a lot anyway, but she had a mop bucket, and she held me up by my legs and dipped me in the bucket when I was only about 6 or 7.
Right.
And she went like this on the floor while I was screaming and washed the kitchen floor with my hair. And I begged her to let me go, and I screamed and screamed and screamed, but she wouldn't. And I just felt this real hatred from her. It was horrible.
Well, I can imagine.
It was really horrible. And then my dad would try and French kiss me a lot when I was sat on his knee. And then, if you're sensitive, don't listen to this. But my dad was into scalping. Like, he had on his arm, he had like American Indian tattoos, and you know what they're into. Some of them.
Scalping
is where they take the top of your head off.
Scalp, yeah.
And but I don't remember what he held in front of me. But he used to say, "I'm going to scalp you," and he had a thing. I told the police this. It looked like a head. I don't know if it was a puppet, but it looked like her face had been shrunk or something, and it had hair all over it.
Like a shrunken head.
Yeah, and it scared me. It really scared me. That did. And then then I'd be scared that he would scalp me and stuff like that. And then my parents would, there was a kitchen chopping board, and one of my punishments was they put my hand on a chopping board like that, and then the knife would be slicing as if they're going to chop my fingers off. So I'd be so frightened that my fingers were going to be chopped off when I was a little girl. And that happened probably about 2 or 3 times.
Right.
So and the other thing is, my father laid me across. This stuff happens, people. This happens, all right. This happens. The worst. This is probably the worst. My dad led me over his legs, and I had my head down like that, and he put a bucket under my head, and he had a knife, and he said, "I'm going to chop your head off." Oh. And I was screaming and screaming and screaming, and I really thought my head was going to be chopped off.
Did he actually cut into you? Or?
No, he had a knife, and he was doing pretend motions with the knife over the back of my head.
I know you can't account for him, but was there any reason?
I don't know what room it was. It wasn't in our house. It was in another place. It couldn't have been in our house. Right. But I don't know why he did it. Why right. he was just merciless. Yeah. He was just merciless. So that happened. And then, my dad did grab my throat at the front door, and that upset me. I felt a real feeling of he must really hate me. He must really hate me, you know.
I mean, as a young child, Jo, how was your behaviour outside the house?
Bad. Really bad.
Can you give us an example of?
I was shoplifting. I was shoplifting and jumping out of people through bushes like I'd want to frighten them. I was jumping out of bushes, or sometimes I would run up to people and say, I know it sounds embarrassing, but please love me. I need someone to love me. I just want someone to love me. And I would run up to people and beg them to help me. But I didn't tell them I was being abused at home. They just thought I was a local nutter. And I'd run up to people and say, please help me, help me, help me. And I was chased by people calling me a Paki in the town. So I had a gang drunk.
I used to get that as a kid.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Quite a bit about it.
Yeah.
That was the 70s for you, you know.
So I felt there was nowhere to escape, basically. And the other thing is my mum, I did tell the detectives my mum was an air traffic controller in the RAF at Wootton Bassett. Is it Compton Bassett or Wootton Bassett?
Wootton,
yeah. And but the strange thing is, she's an absolute traitor, because she was in the RAF and she and my dad got me in a room. It was a dark room. I don't think it was in my house. It was like a hall, and we're small, probably 2 sizes of this room, and it was pitch black, and suddenly this light, this torch, was shone on my face. I'm sure it was my mum or my dad had shone it on my face, and I felt really like queasy, like weird, like I was coming around or something. And my mum said in a German accent, "We have ways of making you talk."
Yeah, I remember thinking.
And then she said, "We're going to take your teeth out and put them on a necklace." I was crapping it. I was so scared. I was absolutely frightened, and it was these German accents and stuff like that. And another time, my dad put on a video. I mean, he was into like snuff movies as well. I told the police that.
Right. Well, this is interesting because the police have always denied the existence of snuff movies. What would you say to that?
Well, basically, my dad was into snuff. Now, I watched a couple of films when I was a child, but I don't know whether they were movies or not, because how can I explain it? One movie I saw was a child, well, not a child, it was a teenage girl she had a door put on her, and then all these bricks, and she was screaming, she was suffocating. Then they put another door on the top of the bricks, and then she was screaming, and in the end I think she died. but I don't know whether that was real or not. And then my dad showed me a video of a man having his head chopped off,
Right.
a real head chopped off, and then he would talk about dead bodies and sex in a cave with a dead body, and he said it was necrophilia.
These were videos, were they?
Those two were videos, but the necrophilia one, he would explain to me how to have sex with dead bodies.
Did you have any knowledge that he was doing that? Or?
No, I didn't see him do it.
Right.
No, I didn't see him do it.
Very evil.
Yeah, but and then what was the other thing? Yeah, basically I was locked in a cupboard regularly with that we had a cupboard in the lounge, and there were these meat hook. They looked like metal hooks where from the outside they looked like claws coming out
Right.
of the cupboard, and that frightened me because they looked like claws.
They were meat hooks.
Yeah, and then they didn't hurt me with them, but they put me in the cupboard, and in the cupboard were big black spiders, like real spiders.
Right.
And witches, like my mum had these witches. They used to give us Christmas witches puppets, but the witches were really horrible, like really nasty,
Sinister.
really sinister. Puppets hanging over my head, so that scared me.
How long was you in the cupboard for?
Oh God, I can't remember. It felt like ages, but I don't think it was for too long. Probably about half an hour to an hour, or possibly 1.5 hours, but that still felt long to me.
Well, even from what you've told us, what they've done, this isn't parenting.
No,
You know.
and the worst bit, I think one of them was my I was scared of the record called Peter and the Wolf.
Yeah.
And my mum knew that I was scared of that record, so she put that in the cupboard.
And there's a music that plays with it, isn't there?
Oh yeah, don't.
No, I'm not going to go.
No,
But if anyone is from the 70s, they'll remember it
Yeah.
was always on the telly, and it was about a kid that lived in Germany, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
It was a hunting.
Oh
sort
God,
of,
yeah. But hunting, that's weird. My dad was into. He used to call me Little Red Riding Hood, and he'd say, "Go into the forest, go and I'll search for you." And he said, "And one day I want to marry you because we got a sex cottage in the woods, and I'm going to marry you," and all that.
And how old was you?
About 12, 11. And he would talk about sex sessions and all this stuff with me. But when he said he had a cottage, I felt really frightened. I was actually quite scared.
And where was you actually living at the time?
In Frome, Somerset.
Right.
Frome. There were a lot of paedophiles that tried to lure me into the parks as well. Like these men would like have their willies out when I was a child and say come in the toilets, but because I was so sexualised,
Yeah.
I wanted to go with them. I wanted
Right.
them to touch me, but I didn't go because I knew it was wrong.
Right.
And I was frightened at the same time.
And did the school ever pick up on anything?
No, they abused me anyway. So the Catholic nuns were horrible, and one teacher would drag me by my hair across the classroom, and she would call me a Nazi because my surname was Nazareth at the time.
Right. So your surname's Nazareth.
It was,
which has got big.
My
big-
dad was in an orphanage, Catholic orphanage,
Right,
so
and
they
it's taken.
surnamed him. But my real surname was Ardeshir Irani.
But if we look at this, Joe, Nazareth
I'm not going on
is
too
where
much.
Jesus
Don't
was
wanna
from,
go on.
Nazareth.
Yeah.
So in a Catholic institution, you'd think that they'd take that as...
Hypocritical.
Yet they decided to use a connotation of Nazi.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one thing I want to say is that you were talking earlier about your behaviour outside of the home.
It was clearly
bad, disturbing.
Very bad,
And did anyone pick up on it and try and help? Or
I used to sort of run away from the police when I was a teenager because I used to get drunk and rip cigarette machines off of pubs and all that, and car thefts and things like that. I did quite a lot of stuff like that, you know. And just getting drunk all the time, taking drugs. What was it? I lived in St Paul's for a while, and I went
Bristol.
out. Yeah, I went out with a pimp when I was about or shall I go back to the abuse bit?
Yeah, let's keep with the timeline.
Yeah, the
so we're talking
timelines.
about your primary school years.
Yeah, I used to
can we
play
take
truant a lot. I
Right.
was truant a lot, like playing truant quite a lot. But I got mixed up with a girl who I won't name because she was being abused. But then she tried to get me to have sex with her dog, and all that. She was orphaned, but I think she was being sexually abused as
Well, there's
well.
obviously something clearly wrong there.
Yeah, very. Yeah, you're right, Tam. You're right. Basically, yeah. The other bit was my father used to get me in the bath. It was only the one off, I think, or two. He fondled my breasts from behind, and I remember as a child just feeling very, very embarrassed. I was so embarrassed, and knowing that he was my dad, even though I knew it was wrong, but I did enjoy it, and I didn't. I felt this real confusion, like, should I be liking this or shouldn't I? It was really, just remember being about embarrassed. Excuse me, more than
That's
anything.
just goes to show the inner compassion in you, you know?
Yeah. And then one day he took me out of bed, stripped me, and said, "I want your breasts." But my breasts were like the size of little, poached eggs, sorry. That's the only way I can describe it. And he beat them so much. He said, "You stand there and beat.
But when you say beat, what did he beat?
Horsewhip.
A horsewhip?
A stout horsewhip. It was really thick.
Right.
And he beat them so hard.
Right.
I just remember being in agony, and my legs were beaten till I bled, and I go to school with my legs with blood. You know when the blood comes out the pores of your legs?
Yeah.
I go to school with the blood coming out the pores.
So he beat your breasts and he beat your legs with a horsewhip?
Yeah, and the bottoms of my feet.
He beat the bottoms of your feet?
And then sometimes I'd be beaten all over my body naked. And then I would collapse and pass out, and he'd say, "You're not to collapse," and he'd pick me up and beat me again and again and again.
And who was present when this was happening?
Sometimes my mother would send him upstairs to do it. My mother. And my dad once said, "I can't do this to you, Joe." He said, "My mum's forcing me to do this." He said, "Just pretend you're screaming." So I'd scream and scream, just pretend I'm being beaten up. There was one point where he did.
Which sort of asks the question, who is the main abuser here, your father or your mother?
Both.
You know?
I get confused with it. I don't even know this day whether they were Satanists or what, or God knows what, but there were a lot of, I'll come into it in a minute about Stonehenge, because I witnessed babies being sacrificed.
We'll stick with the timeline, and then, you know, so we just look back at Joe's life now, is that she was born into an incredibly abusive background with a very distorted father, a very sadistic mother, a cold, unloving environment, an environment which was sexually abusive and incredibly violent. She was coming to notice for sort of antisocial behaviour, which again, you know, when we see these traits occurring now out in the normal public, why aren't people trained to pick up on this and understand what's going on, why a kid is behaving in that way? There's always a reason.
I was always called this third child. My parents always said, one day the men in white coats are going to come and get you.
Right.
And then my mum, because I became addicted to food as well, I'd eat like 6 to 10 eggs in the morning, and she said, "You're a drug addict." She said, "You're a drug addict because you're addicted to food." But I ate the food because I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah, I know. There's a comfort sometimes.
It was a real comfort, you know. But then my legs were like really thin as well. There's sometimes when I would, like, my mum would starve me for, like, one day she took me to a common cold unit and starved me for 3 weeks, and she made me eat potatoes and salt and pepper.
What unit was this?
A cold care unit where you catch a cold,
right,
and they pay you. She only did it for the money, and you catch a cold, and the doctors, I don't understand
I understand.
Yeah,
you get these medical trial places.
Yeah.
How old was you when you went there?
About 12-ish.
About 12.
Ish, yeah.
Whose job was it to feed you? Your mother's?
My mum, yeah.
And she decided not to?
My sister ate all right, but my mother forced me to she always said, "Oh, you're such a disruptive child. You eat too many eggs. You're addicted to certain foods. So
I'm just going to talk this
yeah,
forward a
so
bit.
therefore we've got to starve you to find out what you're addicted to." But I wasn't. She said I was on drugs. I get really. I don't understand why.
Well, you didn't
they
have any
did it.
love,
No,
did you? There was no comfort in
no,
your life.
No. The only thing I remember that was nice she did for me is one day she sang "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," and that's the only thing she ever did for me.
Oh.
That's the only thing she ever did.
Oh, Joe. Oh.
That's the only thing she ever did for me.
Oh.
You know?
May she rot in hell. May she rot in hell for that, you know. You know, and
at that one point, I thought, oh, she must love me, but that was the only thing she ever did.
Oh dear.
Thank you.
Oh.
You know, and I still love them through the abuse. But my dad. I mean, my dad did buy me a lot of sweets and toys. I did have a hell of a lot of toys and sweets given to me, but that I had a hell of a lot of sweets and toys. But I suppose maybe that might have been their way of coercing me. I don't know.
Grooming, they call it now, don't they?
Yeah.
Call it grooming.
Yeah. The other.
Joe, like we said, has made notes
because the timelines.
That, you know, also with trauma, time tends to. It's a strange thing with trauma because what you don't want, you push further away, and what you do want, you bring nearer in. So you just take your time, Joe.
Yeah, I will.
Let's go for it.
The other one was threats of being tethered to the floor because my mum kept goats, and the goats were tethered to the floor. But I love the goats, but sometimes they died out of the blue, and I don't know why. I loved the goats. I loved them, and I cared for them, but I'd say to my mum, "A goat's missing," and she'd say, "Oh, it's just strangled on the fence. We've had to throw it away." But I'm wondering what happened there. If you get my drift,
It sort of it hints towards the abuse, the satanic abuse stuff. But, you know.
So, but they didn't tether me to the floor, but I was threatened with being tethered. So that was a sort of blessing in disguise. I don't know if I mentioned my dad had injected me through the thigh. I was in bed, and it was like it felt like a buzzing through top of the middle of my thigh, like a buzz feeling. I don't know what drug that would have been, but I went to sleep, and then 2 days later, he said I came like smelling salts. I was like, what the? Oh, like this, and he said, "I've put you out for 2 days."
God's sake.
But I don't know whether he had sex with me or not, because from an early age he'd talk about breaking me in like my hymen, and I wasn't quite sure what he was on about when I was a child.
Well, he knew what he was on about.
Yeah,
didn't he?
my womb's tilted now. My womb is tilted, but I don't know whether that
it
might not have been him. I don't know.
Joe, it's a very common thing when people have been abused.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the spine is damaged and misaligned wound.
Yeah, maybe that's. I do get a lot of. Sometimes I get pain in my spine, and sometimes I don't. It's not horrific, but I was told by doctors years ago that if I ever had a child, I'd have to have cesarean because the baby won't come out properly. So I don't know what happened there.
I'm just going to move this forward a wee bit. Let's get you more on camera then.
Yeah. And my mother threatened to have me hung, drawn and quartered, and I didn't know what it meant when I was a child. But I wasn't, because I wasn't sure what it meant, I didn't feel too afraid, but I did feel afraid. So I think somebody mentioned it to me what it was later, and I was quite stressed out.
Well, it's medieval torture,
I was really
isn't it?
unhappy about it. And the guns, my in the loft, my dad used to keep porn in the loft, and I'd look at the porn a lot, and Bambi.
We've got a little dog
And
here.
then my dad would have some old-fashioned guns. They were real guns.
Bring the little dog up.
And this is my little dog, my comfort. Love you. I got 2 rescues. My dad had some. They were like black handguns, metal, sort of about that big, and he would have some bullets, and he would turn this with some holes in a barrel, with there would be about 4 or 5 chambers, and he would fill 4 of them but leave one empty.
Yeah.
And he had 2 guns, and he'd say, I've got some guns. And he said, your mother's got a gun in her handbag. And I'd say, why? And he'd say, oh, it's just for protection, really. I've given her a gun to put in her handbag.
Right.
My mum never used the guns on me, but my dad put the gun to my head, and he would say, I'm going to...
I think this little wants to
Thank
come
you,
out.
sweet. Good girl, Bambi. Good girl, darling.
Come.
And then he'd pull the trigger, and I'd be like this.
Oh.
And then he'd say, it's all right, you've missed that one. There wasn't a bullet in that one. But the bullets were in the gun, and because I saw him put them in there, and then he would pull it again and again and again, and then I would feel this feeling of shock go through me,
Right.
and then he'd open up the barrel and say, oh, look, there's the bullet, you've missed it. That's the bullet that was meant to hurt you, but you've missed the bullet. So that
Well, it's
happened.
just pure torment, isn't it?
Yeah. And then the other one was.
You're going about spiders, because you mentioned this quite a bit,
in my
don't
mouth, the spiders in my mouth. Oh my God! It wasn't too often, thank God, but he did put a live spider in my mouth. It was more of a daddy long legs, and then a snail.
Oh.
But the worst bit was when he held one, and the legs were going like that in front of my face, and that frightened me so much, John.
Oh dear.
His legs are like that. It was horrible.
Oh. You're what? Unbelievable.
It was so frightening. It was the legs. I don't like the legs of spiders.
And I'm not surprised.
Um,
I'm not surprised. I mean, the man is just a monster.
he was mental, yeah, but he came across all nice, like outside he was all
Well, he would
lovely and charming, and you know, everyone loved him.
Oh.
They all loved him.
But we hear that quite a bit.
He'd go to these auctions, he'd be, oh, there's Eddie, you know.
Yeah. And back at home, this just goes to show how they hide in plain sight, you know.
It's just unbelievable. Oh, you know, people sometimes say to me, what would you do if you went back to your childhood? I'd say, report them.
Yeah.
I actually told the detective that I tried to kill my dad. I was at the top of the stairs one day. I was so sick of him. I got this Hoover. It was an old-fashioned Hoover, one of the old 70s. It was really heavy. And I went, I'm going to fucking kill you. And I wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
But he missed his head. But he went, he went freaking mental, he did. My mum went mental. But
That's probably when they started losing control, wasn't it?
yeah. The other one was obviously my dad handcuffed me, sort of for a joke. But then I'd feel frightened because I didn't want them on me anymore. And he would like play fight me in the lounge, and my mum would come in and go, oh, are you having sex again, you two?
Oh my.
Yeah, and I felt embarrassed. He would play fight me, but it was wrestling. He called it wrestling, but he would tickle me so hard till I cried. And one day he pulled my arm back, and I was screaming like hell. I was in so much pain. I mean, I was in absolute agony.
But what a thing for your mum to say as well.
It almost sounded like she was jokingly saying it,
Yeah.
like...
Well, she knew what was going on.
I felt so embarrassed, though, because I knew he was abusing me, yet I didn't tell her. But there was one point where I heard them in bed whispering. I don't know what they were saying, but then he came into my bed and sexually abused me, and I don't know whether they planned
She
it.
coerced it.
I don't know. I don't want to accuse her, but I'm not sure.
Well, there's no need to do her any favours, you know. Where's
Yeah.
the lioness when the cubs are hurt?
Yeah.
As the saying goes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Right.
He was going to brand me with an iron, a hot iron. I've had my birthday present, Christmas presents thrown onto a fire. My mum, when she was in the RAF, she went to, where is it? Switzerland about 35 times, and she brought back this beautiful red skirt.
Right.
And that was one point where I thought, oh, maybe she loves me, you know.
Right.
It was a red skirt. It was the most beautiful red skirt ever. And basically, she threw it on the fire when it was Christmas Day.
Oh.
And I was so upset, and some of my other toys went on the fire. And the other thing that upset me was my dad gave me an eternity ring. and it was meant to be for my mum, but it came to me, and I felt so much guilt when I was a little child. I felt the most awful guilt.
I don't know where this little one wants to go.
She's going to ruin the wires in a minute.
It's all right, as long as we keep the wires
Intact, yeah.
Plenty of slack on there, we'll bring that. Got a little dog there for comfort.
Yeah.
And all that. And, I mean, one thing I say that, you know, sometimes,
Go, Bambi.
you know, when these things occur, the police do get involved and social services get involved, and the kid is taken away to a place of safety.
I wish I had been. Oh my gosh, I would have done anything to have been adopted.
And
You've got no. I would have done anything, but I didn't want to leave my sister with them.
We hear a lot, don't we, where people do attack the care system, and rightly so, because it, in no way defending it. But I want to keep a balance here. Some kids go into care because this is going on in the home, and let us make this perfectly clear. 80% of all abuse of children goes on within the home as opposed to outside the home. You know, let's keep this in a balance.
Horrific. It's horrific for children. My dad had forced one or two, I can't remember if it was one or two, I think there were 2 cats up between my legs. But I got to the point, I still love those cats.
What can we explain what he did?
I was
Without
in bed.
going to...
Yeah, no, it's right. I was in bed, and he put a cat between my legs, and I felt a bit sexual, and then I started to put the cats between my legs to feel turned on when I was probably about 11, I think, 10 or 11. And then I stopped doing it after a while. But when I look back at those cats, I just think, how cruel could I have been?
Look, this wasn't...
No, I know,
of your
but
making,
those little cats were so cute.
I know, but this is your father orchestrated all this, Joe.
I love those little cats, and I loved our little dogs.
Well, that's because you're a good, kind person, that's why.
You know.
And we can see with your lovely little dogs here.
I know.
You know, how lovely are they,
Bambi.
you know? They're little rescue dogs, and they're so chirpy and happy, you know? They're lovely little things. And that you can see there's no fear in them or anything.
Yeah.
You know, don't ever doubt your compassion, Joe.
I just remember their little faces, those little pussy
Because
cats.
you're a good person, that's why. That's why. Don't, come on.
I don't know why people do this to children.
Because they're bad. And this is why we do this, to tell the world that this does go on and that people come forward and not lying.
Yeah.
They are not lying.
No, my detective believed me. I did a video thing, and she was holding my hand. She said to the solicitors at CICA, I believe her story and it's horrific.
Yeah.
You know, I went up the Beacon Medical Centre to have it done and everything, so...
But, you know, you do suffer with some mental disorders as a result of
I've got borderline personality disorder, but I'm not violent. But I've got...
I hope not.
No. No, and I can get really angry sometimes with myself, but I don't harm myself. Sometimes I felt a bit suicidal. I've got OCD from when my mother spat in my food a lot, so I had to eat her saliva.
And you would see her do this?
Yes, through the kitchen. There was like a keyhole in the kitchen.
Her mother would deliberately spit on her food as a child. And Joe would
Regularly,
sometimes watch her. So it wasn't done overt.
She mixed it in after as well, which was gross.
What absolute hatred.
She would sort of be leant over like that.
And gob in her food.
And there were 2 free plates, because we had like a dresser in the kitchen. And she'd mix it in. I'd think, oh my gosh, I've got to eat this again. It was horrible. And sometimes I get my food and chuck it over the back of the garden because I didn't want to eat it.
Right, okay, well, I'm not surprised.
It was freaking horrible. But
you mentioned something about your father made you eat.
My dad made me eat a little bit of my poo, only a tiny bit, even though that's a bad thing to do. And that was pretty horrific. But I think God has healed. There has been a lot that God has healed in me of trauma, but there's still a little bit left.
Yeah.
And I'm on some medication. I'm under mental health. The mental health have been really, really lovely to me.
Let's stick with, you know, the timeline.
There was cats. Yeah, my dad put some rods under my feet. He would threaten me with electric cattle rods.
Right.
But the ones he had in his hand weren't electric.
Right.
He would just say, "Give me your feet," and he'd go very, like, say there's my foot. He'd go really hard down there.
Right.
And and like now, if I'm in bed, like there's certain times I can't. There's certain positions I can't put my feet in because he also played under my armpits. Like he'd tickle very hard, and tickle between, not on my vagina, but between, like on the glands. He would press so hard till I screamed. So when I'm in bed, sometimes that hit. When I'm trying to put my feet together, it kicks off the glands.
Right, okay, yeah. I mean, it's like body memory, as it were.
It's horrible. It's freaking horrible. It's horrible. And then he would say, "Oh, I want your adrenaline to start going." He'd talk about my adrenaline and he'd say, "Oh, the body's amazing, how much pain it can take," and you know. And then he would get me to feel my pulse, and I would get into the habit of feeling my pulse till I had panic attacks and stuff like that. What else? Oh yeah, my dad and mum used to wear black hoods, like not in front of me, but I'd see them in their bedroom. I think they're into BDSM or something horrible like that. Horrible, yeah.
Like that, yeah.
But these were black hoods with the eyes cut out, and it was just, it was frightening. It was really horrible. It was just horrible. And then the other thing was my dad did a blood pat to me. He cut my finger, and then get like that. He'd say, "We're blood friends now," and I thought it was like funny at the time. I thought, "Oh, he really must love me." Blah blah blah. You know, I tried to hang on to any little thing I could as a child.
Well, any attention, even if it's negative,
anything,
is attention.
Yeah.
You know, that's been proven.
Yeah,
you know.
and then I would sort of lick the blood, and I got a taste for the blood, and then he would bring a goblet out, and he'd say, "Oh, bite onto the goblet, but don't quite crush it with your teeth. But let's see how far you can go with your teeth until you break the goblet."
Right, like
I don't know what all that was about. Yeah. And then my mum had an electric fence, and she'd go, well, I'd have to put my mouth on the electric fence, and get the electric through my mouth.
God! Has anyone ever touched an electric fence? It's direct current, and it's straight from a car battery, and it will knock
I thought she was
your
joking.
arm out of its socket.
I didn't know it was abuse until
and
a while ago.
And she made you bite it.
Not bite it, just go like that, and the electric shocks would go through my. It was where the goats were kept.
Yeah, I know. So she'd make you put your mouth on, and it's hard. It's awful pain.
Yeah, it was more of it was painful, but it was more of, I thought, oh, maybe she's just having a joke with us. But now I know that is child abuse. You don't do
it's
that.
Horrific.
You don't do that to a child, you know. But at the time, that was the other thing that I've just remembered. I had a doll. I love my dolls. I really love my dolls. And I had a little doll called Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Yeah, I love. No, not Charlotte. Margaret. She was dressed in blue and all that blue, and but I used to damage my dolls and pull their legs off. And my dad taught me how to put grasshoppers in the body, and wait for them to die. Sorry, this is so bad. Sorry.
I mean, it's just no end to this bloke's perversion.
He's mental. He was mental.
I mean, God alone knows what happened to him as a child.
Yeah.
You know, because you would.
He had 16 brothers and sisters in Iran, and loads of them got killed in the ice factories.
Right.
But he had something in his childhood that he wouldn't tell my mum about.
Right.
Because she used to say, "Oh, something happened in his childhood, but he won't open up about it."
Oh God! So he took it
But
out
then
on you.
I've been abused, but I don't go abusing children.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got a choice.
You're a very kind person.
You've got a choice, you know. I'm nearly at the end. Sorry, everyone.
No, that's
right. Snuff films, obviously my dad was into snuff.
You just push that up.
And he actually brought me and my sister some snuff, and we go like that.
Oh, the actual tobacco snuff.
Yeah, and I don't know if I explain it earlier about a movie I saw where someone's head was chopped off.
Yeah.
And all that I've said about that, yeah.
I mean, a snuff film is different to snuff. The snuff film is the filming of murder.
Yeah. This one's quite bad. I remember my dad used to pretend to drop dead, pretend he was dead, and I remember screaming and saying, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy."
Yeah.
And he would be like this, and then suddenly he'd come alive, and he would do that a couple of times to make me think he was dead.
Right.
And that frightened me. Even though he was hurting me, I still loved my parents. I know it's stupid, but I did.
It's because you're a good person.
I don't know
Jo.
whether that's silly or not.
No, it ain't silly.
Yeah.
It shows the compassion that you've got,
Yeah.
the strength that you've got. You know.
Yeah.
Don't, you know.
And I was gagged as well. I had my mum, my dad. This is embarrassing. My dad was sat there. My mum was where you are, and I was naked bottom. My backside was spanked so hard, and I could feel my mum looking between my vagina and buttocks. I could feel her eyes leering between them, and I was gagged. I had socks put in my mouth, or sometimes they're like what's it called? A rag.
Right.
Like a rag. And then there were times when I'd have funny pats put on my head, like it was weird. It was like a tissue, like what's it? When you get a square and you tie the ends like a knot.
Knotted hanky.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I didn't want to wear it, and I was forced to wear it. And then they threatened me with a dunce's cap to stand in the corner.
Right.
I don't remember wearing the dunce's cap, but they threatened to I was made to stand in corner, but I don't remember wearing a hat that they threatened me with. The other thing was I was taught how with a dagger. I had a dagger, it was more like, I can't remember if it's a dagger or a knife, but I was taught to hold it up there and go like that. Oh, sorry, I needed a bit of shoulder there. I was taught like that, to go like that until it literally nearly touched my stomach.
Right.
So I just thought as a child this was all normal. I just thought it was all normal.
What about your friends? Did your friends visit your home or?
No, I don't remember.
This is another common
I used
trait.
to visit them, but then I was in trouble at school with them for shoplifting and all that, you know.
Did any of your friends' parents feel alarmed by your behaviour or?
I can't remember. I feel I've probably blanked all that out.
Right. Okay.
I had a lovely friend though. He was a gay boy. He was so sweet to me. But me and him were really close, and we used to go around together, like play truant at school. But he was like really sweet and lovely and kind to me. I didn't have many friends at school. I was bullied quite a lot at school, to be honest. Right. I was sort of always pushed to the back of the dinner queue, and that hurt.
Oh.
You know, and I love my school dinners, but all the boys used to bully me and push me at the back of the queue, and then I used to sit alone at school and eat, and they'd all throw peas at me.
Oh. Oh, Joe. Oh, darling, come on. Oh. People are cruel, aren't they?
Thank you.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Oh.
I got loads of friends now.
Yeah, we're your friends.
I've got loads of friends around
We're your
town and
friends.
that, yeah.
Oh.
People around town are lovely to me.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah, they're lovely.
And you got your dogs,
Yeah,
didn't you?
and
So.
I'm in sheltered housing. I've got the wardens as well,
Yeah.
which helps. So, I think this one's coming out of my childhood a bit now.
Yeah, you
a
take
little
it
bit. I did have when I came home from school, I would be followed by men, like in a churchyard.
Right.
And me and my sister were a bit naughty. We used to poo and pee in the churchyard on the way because we were desperate for a poo. Sorry, guys. But there was a man hidden behind a tree, and there was a church, a Catholic church, and this man would hide behind a tree. There was a couple of times I saw him, and I was so frightened, and he would go like this.
Oh, dear.
That frightened the hell out of me.
Yeah.
He looked like, I can't quote it, but he looked like one of the guys, the altar boy. He was probably about 30. I was only about 12.
Is it to do with the church then?
I think it was him, but I can't quote it was him. But he really wanted me to...
Beckoning you into...
I was scared. I ran and ran, and I got my sister, and I ran and I ran and I ran, and I never went back to that churchyard again. I never went back there again. I was so frightened. And there was a woman outside my school. She had her door open, a car door, and she said, "I'll give you 50p if you get in."
A woman?
A woman. She was average build, middle-aged,
My word.
brown, short, wavy hair. I remember her, not her face though. And I was so scared. I was outside a sweet shop.
Do you know, back in the 70s, they used to do public information films about strangers. They don't do it now, but they used to, didn't they? Because kids would get abducted.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I
during
could
the
have been
school
abducted.
holidays.
So I could have been abducted,
Yeah.
but I knew then I was scared. I was scared of her, and I said no, and she said, "Oh, here's 50p, get in." I was like, no, and I ran, and I think she must have driven off. But this was outside a sweet shop. This was outside a sweet shop.
If we go back to the post I did years ago, a few weeks ago, about the hierarchy of Satanism, and we had the thing called the spotters, which would go out looking for vulnerable kids, which seems to tie in.
Maybe that's what it was.
Maybe it ties in with that, yeah. You know.
Maybe my parents sent her out. See, this is
You don't
why
know.
I don't know.
You just don't know.
Flipping
You don't
heck.
know. You don't know.
I don't know, but basically, the other thing that happened was what was it? When my parents visited, I'm going on a bit, aren't I?
No, go. It's all right.
When my parents visited witches, so I was locked in a car for hours. I'm talking about 4 to 5 hours.
But when you say witches, what
she
would
was
you
a
mean?
white witch. She lived with her children, and she was into Beltane and all that. Beltane
yeah.
and Black Egyptian magic. What else? Orgies, sex orgies. And I'd be left in a car. My parents would visit these people. She had a boyfriend called Roy. He was an American Indian, but he was obviously into the occult as well. Then my mother ended up living with him and going off with him, leaving me and my sister to fend with our dad. And then my dad abandoned us.
Oh.
He left.
How old was you when you got
about 13, 14, and he left some money in a potty. There was a potty, and he left some money in a potty that he kept.
And you just left to look
And
after yourself.
he left us, and I was so scared and so frightened. Even though he'd abused us, it's like we didn't have anybody. And then he came back a few days later, and I know it sounds silly, but I was glad he came back.
Right.
Stupid thing to say, but I was glad he came back. But I was very frightened because he'd abandoned us, and then my mother would go off missing for quite she'd go to Cornwall and that, you know, quite a lot of the time.
Split that up.
And then basically the witch moved to 2 doors away from where we were in Frome, so I used to go round there, and she'd say, "Oh, I got some toast for you and food because I know you're being starved half the time." And she the police were out looking for me, and I saw the police because my parents had called the police or something, I can't remember. And I thought, oh, maybe they do care because they call the police. But then at the same time, I was scared because I thought, I don't want the police to get me back home because I'll just get hurt again.
Yeah.
So, cut a long story short, I looked out the window and there was a police car, and I hid. And then I thought it was a laugh. I thought, I'm hiding from the police and all this. And then the witch, I've got a tattoo on my arm. It's only a tiny. You can probably hardly see it. It's all burnt out there.
Have a look there, John. All right, see, it's just a smudge, really. Now,
It's a
isn't
smudge now. I've burnt it out with matches over the years. Not
You
now.
burnt it out with matches?
Yeah, not now. Yeah.
You like?
Yeah, but I wouldn't do it now because it's not the right thing to do. But I had a tattoo by the witch's daughter.
What was it?
It was Robert, because I fancied the kids. It was a house, and the ground floor was where we would sort of commune. And then the second floor was where all the bikers and that and the witches would sleep at night with me. Not with me, but
How old was you?
oh gosh, about 13, 14,
So 13, 14, it's
15-ish.
with like a witch. And when you say bikers, what do you mean?
Hells Angels.
Right. Okay.
They had me in a room and they were surrounding me, and they got me in my bra knickers, but they didn't abuse me. But all I remember, the last thing one of them said was, "Oh, she'll do."
Right.
Like that, and then after that I went blank. I don't know what happened after that. I can't remember what happened. So I got no recollection of that. And then upstairs, some nights we'd have all the Hells Angels and bikers sleeping together, but right at the top floor was her son Robert, who I really fancied. He would play like all the satanic music and that.
Right, okay.
And that was his name because I really liked him at the time. I knew now it was wrong, but
Well, this woman's obviously in trouble, isn't she?
gosh, she'd say, "I'm just off to an orgy," and I go, "What's that?" She said, "Oh, it's a sex party," and then she'd say, "Oh, when I'm out, don't look at those books over there." And I thought, so when you're a child,
You do. You do, yeah.
And she had the books. It was called Black Egyptian Magic.
Right.
And all that, and then she'd come back. She was actually quite nice to me, but there was obviously ulterior motives.
Yeah.
And then her daughter would say to me, because her daughter was half American Indian, so she had brown skin, and she tried to get me to become was it left wing or a left wing Nazi?
God knows.
Some sort of left wing.
Right.
She'd say, "Oh, your skin colour would sort of just about fit where they wouldn't reject you. You can become a Nazi." And I didn't want to become a Nazi. I said, "No, I don't want to do that."
That's a good life choice.
Yeah,
Don't become a Nazi.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. It was to do with Nazism. So, but it's strange how they were connected a lot to my parents.
Yeah.
And my parents were into Nazis.
Yeah, your mum.
It's just all bizarre, I think there's a lot of stuff that I don't know what happened. I've nearly come to the end, really. Oh, there was one. Oh my gosh, this was one. Oh my God, this was amazing how I escaped. When I was after my parents abused me, and my mum kicked me out when I was about 16, and I had became homeless, and I had literally had a fork to do my hair with.
Right.
A fork.
An eating fork.
Yeah, was my comb. And then I would sit in shop doorways, and I was buying gas. I was gas sniffing and glue sniffing, to the point where I had like 2 butane gas cylinders in my mouth.
What would that do to you when you took it?
Oh, it was nice. I wouldn't do it now, but it was really nice. You get really high.
Right.
And I'd listen to music to get higher, like Human League and all those like new romantic songs and punk rock.
So you're on the street of, where was this, Bristol?
Frome.
Frome.
Part of it was Bristol. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But in Frome, I was on the streets, and I had a lot of glue, a lot of gas, and I would sleep in a car, a derelict car, but I was frozen. I was so cold I'd start crying.
Oh.
I was crying, but then I had a punk rocker boyfriend with me, and I got sick of it because he kept going to the ceiling. I was like, it was just dropping everywhere. It was horrible. And he made me feel sick, and I was like, "Carl, I really don't want this."
Yeah.
But I was so cold that I would cry. I was freezing, absolutely freezing.
How would you get your money?
I found a couple of... near where I lived as a child, I went back to the area, and there was a guy that I went out with, and he would feed and clothe me and water me, but sometimes I would have to have sex with him to get a food.
Right.
So I would have sex with him to get a meal, and then he would give me a meal and feed me. So I did it that way. And then one night we had a big bong.
Right.
And the bong was in the middle of the floor, and we were all going like that around. There was all these like hippie guys,
right.
And then one day when I had a like that, I went like this, like my arms went in. I went all retorted, like, and I don't know what they'd spite me with.
Right.
And then another day we had a police raid where the police came round and I had to hide the drugs behind the toilet. I can't remember what happened then. I feel I just blanked after, but they said the police are coming. We got to hide everything.
Right.
That was about 35 years ago. That was, and so that happens. Some of the stuff that I went through is blank. I mean, there was another time when I went to St Paul's and I went out with a pimp and. He was a heroin dealer,
Right.
and I went out with him, and it wasn't abnormal for me to give him a blowjob in the car. Like, we just go, let's go to Bristol, and I give him a blowjob. It was horrible, actually, because there was another man sat next to him.
Oh, dear.
Oh, I mean, I slept with probably about 59 men. I'm celibate now. I don't believe in sex before marriage. I'm celibate now. But basically, cut long story short, went to St Paul's. I went in this house and there was a girl there on drugs. She had the most saddest story. She was like hitting up and I'd sit there while they were hitting up. The only thing I've never done is inject myself.
Right.
Ever. I've had loads of drugs but never injected. But basically she said, Joe, I need to warn you. I said, what's going on? She said, my dad's been trying to get me out of here for years. She said, but I can't escape. She said, I'm so hooked on heroin. Right. She said, Paul's down the pub at the moment. He's now signing you up to become a proper fully fledged prostitute.
Oh, my word.
I was like,
so
what?
Was this girl a prostitute as well?
Yeah.
Right.
She couldn't escape. She couldn't escape, mate.
Can we say something that...
Sorry, guys. It's so much. I don't want to...
No, Joe, this is important.
Sorry.
Because when we're on the streets, especially in the big towns, we see a lot of heroin addicts. Now, the women I know from my work...
They're trapped.
You know, then they will be paying for that through sex. You know, and it's just... When you see the homeless situation, look at the story behind it. What is going on behind it? You just pick that veil, and there is always a tale of absolute abject sadness. And people think like the child prostitution and everything else, it only goes on abroad. It's going on here in front of your face.
Apparently,
you just
Britain
don't see
is
it.
the worst now.
Really?
Apparently, they reckon there's 10,000 children a day being targeted on social media a day in Britain.
Unbelievable.
It's just
and
freaking
at
wrong.
any point during your life up until this, did anyone intervene and come and get you? No. And we are talking about child rape, torture, drug abuse, everything.
Yeah.
And at no point.
Yeah. No.
And there was just a little girl wanting to be saved.
Yeah. I just thought it was a normal way of life, you know. There was another guy that I went out with who was a pimp, but I won't go into it, but anyway, I went into a brothel. Well, not a brothel, it was being made into a brothel. It was like a flat, and I would hang out the windows and ask men for sex and thought it was funny. You know, now I know it's serious. It's not a good thing to do.
You're kidding?
Yeah. I was probably about 17 at the time, there were like just people just having sex everywhere, and at one point the guy I was going out with made me pregnant.
Right.
And the minute that certain night that I had sex with him, I just knew I was going to become pregnant. Right. I don't know how. I just felt like I'm about to be pregnant. Yeah. I lost the baby anyway, and about 7 months pregnant, I lost my little baby, and then I had to have a DNC, which is where you clean your womb out in the hospital, and then I remember one horrible woman saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have had sex before marriage, should you?" I mean, I know sex before marriage is wrong, but you don't go up to someone and say, "You should." It was a nurse.
It was a nurse.
It was a Catholic flipping nurse.
That's called compassion. That is
flipping it, man. And then I had to be rushed back in because I had a womb infection, which I could have died from twice. A couple of girls in the next ward were actually dying. A couple had died back then. But anyway, going back to the guy that I was with, he said, if I'd known you were pregnant, I would have married you. And I was under my breath, I wouldn't have married you, mate. Yeah. But he started to bring... In the brothel, he started to bring canes and whips in and I left. I was like, I'm not getting
Right.
involved with that. I'm not getting involved with
like
that.
a sadomasochistic
Yeah.
torture. Yeah.
And then the car thief gang I got involved with, we used to steal cars from Bristol, and they started to bring guns in. This is going back 35 years ago. I said, right, I'm leaving, I'm not getting involved.
Right.
I'm not getting involved. I left. Then there was another gang I got involved, 2 more gangs. The leader was called Jesus. He was a hippie, but he was really nice. They really cared for me, you know, but they sort of looked after me, like, and they didn't hurt me. I just felt like they were really nice, but I fancied the guy called Jesus. He was actually really lovely, but good job I didn't have sex with none of them. But the other gang I had a lot of sex with, we used to go into like a park where there were tunnels,
Right.
and there was a lot of sex going on, like, you know, we were all teenagers and that, you know. One guy ended up committing suicide. Another one had me in bed, and he beat me up. He sort of slapped me really hard on the face because I didn't really want him inside me. I had a lot
dysfunctionality going on.
Yeah, I mean, I slept with about 60 men in all. That's not including my dad. But since I become a Christian, I've been more or less celibate, really. I've probably been celibate now for 30 years, properly. Apart from, I'm going for a divorce at the moment, but there wasn't much intimacy in that.
So we'll just go through, and then we'll talk about you know, life so far up to date. You know, so your life started off bad.
It's getting better slowly,
But back then it didn't get better.
No, it was horrific.
And because of that lifestyle early on, that's led to a lifestyle of poor choices, drug addiction, the prostitution and drug addiction.
Still on nicotine, but that's my e-cig.
But you've come out of it now.
Yeah, I don't drink or anything.
You don't drink.
I've been drunk for 30 years.
And you've got God now.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny because it's not funny. I mean, it's
right.
ironic. In as much as I talk to a lot of people that have been heavily involved, seriously involved in organised crime, but they've come from bad backgrounds, and they've gone to God as well.
Yeah,
and
crazy.
So many. And
I love him. He's amazing.
There is like this revival coming now of good people coming together to say we don't want this evil no more.
Yeah.
And it is evil what they're doing.
Yeah.
It is so bad.
Sad,
it's so polluting.
Yeah.
And what we've got to do
it's
is
acrid.
It is.
Acrid.
It's vile.
Yeah.
It's vile. You know, because I'm a friend of Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want this evil. I don't want this evil hurting our children anymore.
But you can only do so much what God's calling you to do. You know, there was one. I'm nearly at the end now, but there was one part where I went to Stonehenge. I was taken to Stonehenge when I was little, and there were drugs. There was like a big. Oh, hang on, no, there was drug being passed around, and I was told to close my eyes. There was 2 naked men. They were a long hippie.
Who took you?
My mum.
Your mum took you to Stonehenge. Your little, what age is little? Don't need to be 18.
11.
11, right?
Ish.
And do you remember the time of year?
I don't know, but there were loads of people with these hoods,
right?
And there was some without hoods. And then there were naked men, like, not being funny, penises, the lot, like hairy men with long, hippie, had 2 babies in their hands that were screaming. They were crying babies, newborns.
Right.
And then my mum, they were screaming and screaming. And I thought, why are these babies screaming so much? They were really crying. Maybe they've been tortured, I don't know. But my mum said, turn away now. So she put my hand over my head and the screaming stopped.
Right. And what happened next?
I don't know what happened to those babies.
And
I don't know what happened to them babies.
So when you're back then, the road went past Stonehenge. You could drive past it. Did any cars go past or anything?
I can't remember.
No.
I can't remember. My mum and dad used to take us on what were called mystery tours. We were blindfolded. I was blindfolded. Right. I can't remember what happened at the end of some of those. Maybe I went blank, but there was, oh my gosh, there was one party I went to. This was really bad. I did tell the detective this. I went to a party. I was blindfolded by some mates to a party. It was a massive, it looked like a massive flipping mansion or a farm or something. And there were hundreds of people, like hundreds. There were I saw children, but I couldn't see any sacrifices or nothing, thank God. But there were some bonfires and people chanting. I went into this kitchen and there were these drawers, like a big lined up drawers. And there was one drawer here, it was full of syringes. And I'm talking hundreds of syringes. The next drawer was full of wads of money, like big fat wads of money. God. Like, I'm talking wads.
Yeah.
And then the other drawers, I don't know what was in there, but these were massive drawers, and people would just be taking syringes, and wads of money were being exchanged. And then I remember sat with everybody, like these hippies and that, and just hearing chanting, and there were bonfires going. I don't remember being drugged then, but all I remember is hundreds and hundreds of syringes just everywhere and money being exchanged. But I was blindfolded, so I don't know where I went.
Right, was there any abuse going on?
Don't remember that. No.
It's still bizarre.
Flipping weird. Yeah, weird.
Yeah, I think, drawing an inference, a common sense decision that your parents were probably involved in very occultic behaviour.
Yeah. Oh, there was one. I'll try not to be too long. Sorry, I do apologise.
No, it's all right. It's all as short as you want.
I'm nearly at the end, but there was one guy I went out with who called himself the Devil, and he lived in Warminster.
Right.
And I lived with him, and he would make me sit on him. And sorry, I get embarrassed because I don't even know how to sit on a man. I can do everything else, but I don't know how to please a man like that. I get shy. But he is maybe because he tried to get me to sit on him. Yeah. So I basically did that, but he said I wasn't pleasing to him. Yeah. So I had to hide in a wardrobe. He made me sit in a wardrobe, and then he had a box where he said, "Don't look in this box." There was a box with, he said they were bones. Right. And he told me he was the devil. And he would do all this to me and all that. And then he would sleep with his... I can't sleep with my arms like that.
Like a vampire type.
Yeah. So he did all that to me. Like, not on me, but he did that. And he would sleep like this and frighten the living hell out of me. It was just awful. I had all that done. And then he raped me up my backside. I was about 18, and he went for my throat, and he would kidnap me. Like, I would be in a car, and he'd say there's a bat, like Ramses the Bat, a witch in the back of the car, and then he took me to a field where he said there's a beast waiting for you in the field. A beast, yeah. And he'd stop the car, and he would say things about my skull, like the back of my skull. I don't know what he was on about, but he'd say there's a special nodule at the back of your skull and all this. And he just did really weird things to me. The raping, but the rape hurt so bad. I mean, it was so painful. I walked and I had marks on my neck. I was covering with a jumper my neck. And stuff, and like the other thing is, like, I hallucinated a lot as a child. Like, I thought I saw worms moving around in the fridge, and I don't know if I was drugged up, but a lot of the time I used to hallucinate a lot as a child. I don't know why. You may well have been drugged. Yeah.
I hear this quite a bit from people.
Really, yeah.
Saying that whenever they have memory recall because they were drugged. There'll be rabbits jumping about in the recall and all sorts of butterflies.
Happened a lot. Yeah.
But I mean, look, needless to say, you're here now. Yeah. You've come out and you've given a very, very brave...
Shall I tell you how I got saved?
Let's hear that, please.
Oh, well, despite me getting saved, there's only one thing that I don't think that I get I'm nearly on the end of a divorce, all right, 24-year marriage. I left my husband 14 months ago. I won't go into that because he's not well himself, but it really did not work out. It was horrendous. I had to escape. Basically, I left, but I have had a fear that no Christian man will want me because of I'd love a partner, but I don't know if anyone will want me because of my past. So I get a bit sad about that. I'd love someone, but I don't know if it'll ever happen. But cut a long story short, I'll tell you how I got saved. I was one of the bikers from the Hells Angel group, which was with the witches.
Yeah.
He's dead now. He died last year. He's lovely.
Right,
He was
right.
called John Notley.
Right, okay.
He saved my life.
He saved your life, right.
God used
Come
him
on.
to save my life.
Come on, let's talk about
Yeah,
him then.
this is how I got saved. I was in I managed to find a flat in Frome, away from the brothel. Well, no, it was across the road from the brothel. I was still drinking and everything, heavily drinking, and stuff like that. But this guy would knock on my door, and I thought, oh, that's John Notley. He's a lovely guy. He's from Bruton, and he would say, Jesus loves you.
Aww.
But then I would stick my V's up at him.
Would you?
Yeah, I was horrible. I was really nasty. I was really twisted,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I'd just say F off and all this. And then he wouldn't give up on me.
Yeah.
But then there were times in my flat where I'd look out the window and I'd see everyone normal, and I felt like I was a monster, and I would cry, and I just think I want to be part of society. And like if someone knocked on my door, I'd scream. I'd start just screaming.
Right.
Anyway, he didn't give up on me, and he basically, between that, I'd actually taken an overdose, because Stelazine back then. It was like what calms you down,
Right, yeah.
thingy bob.
Barbiturate.
Yeah. So I took an overdose, and I survived. And then basically I wanted to take another overdose, but I managed not to because I was scared. And then John wouldn't give up on me, and he knocked on my door. And one day I looked in his eyes, and I could see this light in his eyes, this light. And I thought there's something not right with him, you know.
One way of looking at it.
He's meant to be a Hell's Angel,
yeah.
you know. And he said, Joe, I've escaped from the cover, and I've escaped. He said, I want you to know Jesus, you know. And so I slowly warmed to him. But by then I was becoming quite violent towards other Christians. I'd like kick them in the street and stuff.
Would you really?
Yeah, I was kicking them and throwing popcorn at them at the cinema, and I was just nasty, you know, blowing smoke in their face, like fag smoke. And basically, at one point I thought, right, all right, I'll try this stuff out, you know, Holy Spirit, Jesus. And I went to a house, but this is the mad part. I thought all these Christians were on drugs because there was so much peace in them. I thought they're taking something.
Right.
So basically, cut a long story short, I got the gang involved. I said there's some funny people called Christians down in this big. They had a big, lovely house. It was like a courthouse, or whatever you call. And they said, right, where's the drugs? I said, well, come in and I'll prove to you they're on drugs. So this worship leader was playing a guitar, and I thought, God, he's a bit out of his head, this one. He's on something really good. And I was trying to impress my mates, you know, and the gang leaders. And the gang leader said, well, Joe, don't waste our time. Where's the drugs? So I said, I think it's in that guitar, because the worship leader was so peaceful. I thought there were drugs hidden in the guitar, like in the hole of the guitar. And anyway, they went out into the kitchen. We were searching this guitar for drugs.
Right.
And it wasn't drugs, it was the Holy Spirit. It was the Holy Spirit. So anyway, I fell out with the gang because of that. They thought I'd wasted their time. They thought they could get drugs. Yeah. But over time, like I'd go to their church, and there was a little old lady who she's so sweet. She was about 90, and she looked up at me because I'm quite tall. She looked up at me. She goes, "Oh, bless her." She goes, "My love, would you like to receive Jesus as your Lord?" And I said, "Yeah, I would." And she said, "You know, you need to repent of your sins." I said, I repent. The Catholic Church across the road hated me for it. They went absolute. The priest went mental. He went absolutely ape.
Yeah, this is this division
Oh,
that
he
you
went.
get, don't
He
you?
was screaming at me.
Yeah.
I said, "Jesus is King. Jesus is Lord." He said, "Jesus is not Lord. How dare you?" And he was absolutely peed out of his brains. He got his fist.
A priest said that.
Yeah. He was drunk. He was absolutely stone drunk.
Right.
So I said, "I've left the Catholic Church. I'm sick of it all, blah, blah, blah." And he went mental. My mum and dad started going screaming at me and going mad because they found out. Oh, they went mental.
You know?
Yeah, they went mad.
Yeah.
And then it was just amazing, really. It was just amazing. There's so much more I could tell you.
Isn't that funny that one of the loveliest guys I know was in the biker gang. He's a lovely guy, really lovely guy. And I work with a lot of people that have done serious time in prison.
Yeah.
Good people that want to. And this is why we do this, Joe. We do this because we want the world to know that no matter how deep you're in, there's hope.
Yeah.
There is hope. Life goes on, and people will benefit from. You've got to say. There'll be a lot of people watching. These videos go all over the place. They'll be in that situation. So just
there is a way out. There is a way out. There is a way out. And you police, don't worry, I'll be. You police officers, or you, if you're watching, wake up. And I mean it. Wake up. There's people like John Wedger out here fighting against child abuse, and you're sat on your bums doing nothing. You don't care. If you're scared of your superiors, stuff it. Come with John Wedger. Honestly, there's some of you police officers. You've got children. And you know that there's child abuse going on. You know, and I'm not stupid. You know it's going on. You've got to really get up, and you've got to stand against child abuse. You took an oath. You took a strong oath. Please wake up. Please wake up. And you Satanists, there is a way out for you as well. There is a way out for you. There is a way out, and he's called Jesus Christ. And I ain't bending to nobody. I read my Bible as much as I can. Nothing ever going to stop me from loving Jesus. Nothing. There's nobody in this world that can snatch you out the hands of God. You know, I got a lovely flat now. I've got some really good friends. All right, I'm not well. I'm under mental health. But who cares? You know, I'm just going to go with what God wants at the end of the day. And he's using them to help me. Yeah, I'm on loads of medication, but it has helped me. And, you know, so what? I've got to the point where I think, so what? I'm just going to live my life. I've got 2 lovely rescue dogs. You know, I'm just okay, you know.
And what will you say, Joe, to those that are hurting, that want to talk out but are frightened?
To those that are hurting, please open up. Please. If I can get through this, you can. There is a way out. I suffered. There were times when I wanted to give up. I wanted to kill myself. I didn't want to live as a child. I honestly, please, there is a way. Jesus has really helped me. You've got no idea how much he's helped me. There's times when I've nearly lost houses and flats in the past, and he's always given me accommodation. There's times when I thought I'd have no food on the table, and suddenly, like, you know, money would come through. He's really faithful. He is so faithful, honestly. I mean, honestly, seriously, honestly, please just come to Jesus. He loves you so much. He does exist, and he is real. And to any of you in the occult out there, Jesus still loves you. He hates what you do, but he loves you. He loves the sinner, but hates the sin.
Yeah, we hear that a lot. Well, Joe, I can only say thank you. Thank you so much. And it was by chance I ended up down there, and I took the opportunity, and I'll do everything near enough sporadically. You was in, I was nearby. I was literally 5 miles down the road. I said, Joe, can I come round?
Yeah.
Yeah, come round now. So I've come round and I want to say thank you
I love
so
you
much.
too. I love you too. Thank you, Jesus. I love you, brother. Be encouraged.
You're a good girl.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to get in touch, please do.
Yeah,
And
add
thank
me,
you, everyone.
people. Add me.
Good night. God bless.
Night.